Let's talk about our intuition, what our intuition is, how to work with our intuition, and then, of course, how to honor it. So, first, our intuition is our main compass, our main guidance system that we have within ourselves. We all have an intuitive self. It is waiting for us to explore. It's waiting for us to work with and to strengthen. Our intuition is part of our psyche. It's part of our unconscious self. That is where our senses reside. That is where our feelings and our deeper knowing. You can also watch a video from Greg Braden. He does touch on the heart, how science has also proven that the heart sends signals to the brain of the environmental impact or the environment around a particular person. So the heart is the first indicator of what is happening within someone's environment or within someone's self that eventually sends signals to the brain, where the brain will be able to rationalize or compute what is actually happening. So the heart is the first indicator of what is happening within someone's life or within their environment. So our internal guidance system is constantly communicating with us. This is a simple exercise of tuning in with our senses and our emotions. So, for example, in the past, I had not listened to my intuition many times for years. Being an empath and a naturally intuitive person, over time, I began to suppress my intuition and opt for making decisions based on maybe fear or based on desperation or lack or scarcity or even ego. And the decisions that I was making were not in alignment with what really felt right, but I didn't know what that meant because I had never discovered my intuition. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what felt right because I was used to operating a certain way and functioning a certain way. And that way was perpetuated by sensations or notions or experiences of fear, of doubt, of insecurity, which led me to self-sabotage, which led me to perpetual patterns of failure and difficulties and challenges. And every path that I took didn't feel good, but I didn't, again, realize what felt good or bad. I was just used to that feeling. I was used to operating that way. For example, this is a good example, being lonely and maybe single, right? So feeling lonely and feeling as though one needs to be in a relationship just not to be lonely. There can be a strong urge to be with someone just for the sake of being with someone, and thus making maybe difficult decisions when choosing a partner, if it is out of, again, loneliness or fear of being alone or running out of time. And so these decisions can be made in our lives through our unconscious patterns or unconscious false beliefs. Again, fear, lack, worry, loneliness, which comes from fear, which comes from sadness and grief. And when we make decisions that are not in alignment with our intuition, which I'll get to in a moment, we are going to perpetuate these unconscious, shadowy aspects that we have within ourselves that are being influenced by our false beliefs. And when we make these decisions, we may go for a date, or we might end up in a relationship with someone who may seem okay, but may not 100% feel right. But we may ignore the feeling part. We may ignore the feeling that maybe this isn't 100% right, but all these other things are good. So I'm just going to go with what's good, pay attention to that, and ignore the other side, which the intuition would be then sending signals that something just quite isn't in alignment or isn't lining up exactly. And so over time, you may be in this relationship where you may be realizing more and more and more that, this is really not feeling right. I'm not happy. We're fighting a lot. There's alcoholism. There's, destructive behavior. There's distrust. And so the intuition will most likely be screaming at this time, but then it can still be suppressed. It can still be suppressed, opting for just being in a relationship for the sake of being in a relationship. But what happens when we are not listening to our intuition, we can perpetuate these cycles. They can become worse, and it can harm our emotional well-being. It can harm our physical well-being. It can also harm our psychology, our mental state of being. So everything is connected, and the intuition is one of our most valuable aspects within ourselves. And when we are tuning in with our heart, when we are listening inwardly, then we are going to make decisions that may at first be difficult to understand, because if we are used to operating out of a certain pattern, if it is fear or if it is ego, or if it is something that we have become very familiar with, it is going to take a little while to switch gears and start to believe in ourselves and believe in our heart. And it may require to be single for a long time. It may require to maybe stop a career and take a break. It may require to maybe break some kind of pattern or cycle in order to wipe the slate clean and start to tune in with self and start to connect within. This applies to everything in life. It applies to our inner knowing. It applies to our outer life experiences. And when we are connected with our intuition, then we will be able to find more flow and fluidity and ease in life. We will be able to break patterns, and we will be able to invite experiences that are in alignment with our greatest good, our highest potential, our true self, right? And it does take a bit of work and a bit of patience with this, because the intuition and maybe fear or the ego, there's a fine line between logic and thinking and wanting to make sure that it makes sense versus feeling that it is the right path or it is the right decision. So your intuition is connected within your deeper self. It's connected within your psyche. It's connected within your body. It's connected within your heart. And I feel that in order for us to really connect with our intuition, we must work on our heart. We must work on feeling within our heart. We must work on connecting within our heart. We must work on forgiveness and letting go and working on our shadow self and letting go of the false beliefs, which are the beliefs of fear, of resentment, of grief, of shame that perpetuate cycles that are not really necessarily in alignment with maybe our intuition. And so when we're making decisions out of fear or resentment or anger, our intuition will then send signals that, oh, this isn't the right decision or right place to be or right person to be with, but we may do it anyway because we are feeling, we have a certain belief, that false belief that becomes very hardwired in our existence. Right? So again, fear is a very good example. We can all relate to fear. And fear had been my driving force for many decisions, fear and ego, right? And these decisions that I would make would perpetuate cycles that held me back, that kept creating very serious challenges in my life, and also started deteriorating my well-being. When we start to connect more with our heart, we start to open up to life. We start to open up to trust. We start to understand our true potential. We start to rise above some of the difficulties in life that may have dragged us down in the past. We start to find our true self and unconditional love. And when we are in that alignment with unconditional love and our true self, then we can tap into our inner guidance more, and we will become more and more confident with our inner guidance decisions, the decisions that we make based on what feels right for us. So, for example, if we go out and we meet someone, we go on a date and we have this instant feeling of, ick, like there's like a heaviness in the stomach or in the body, or just this person just didn't feel right, but we go anyway, we may still keep in contact even though there's something off. That is your intuition actually probably screaming at you, but we can become very used to operating out of our false beliefs or out of other patterns that have developed for most of our lives. So the intuition, developing our intuition, is a very, very gentle process. It is not like how we've been used to functioning. It requires a whole different way of being. It requires an ability to sense ourselves on a deeper level, tune in, even though the decisions that we might make might be really hard. If we have to leave someone, if we have to create boundaries around a certain person, if it's a family member, if it's a love relationship, if it's a dear friend, even maybe leaving a career path that we had built our whole lives because it doesn't fit, it doesn't feel good, and it might not be conducive to a balanced and healthy lifestyle. And these decisions might be very difficult to make. It may be easier, it may feel easier to just go with how things have been. But over time, if we're not honoring our intuition and listening to our intuition, it can deteriorate our well-being. It can make us sick, and it can hold us back from so much more in life. And I'm speaking from the future. I'm speaking from having worked through my intuitive self, working through my false beliefs, and working on my heart and connecting with who I truly am. Now I feel so deeply. I get people, I get life, I get myself in deep dimensional ways. And then now I have also learned to honor my intuition. So the next phase is when you have gone into your heart, when you have maybe forgiven, maybe worked on the false beliefs of fears, criticism, shame, resentment, grief, guilt, etc. When those layers have been addressed and worked on, then, and also I should mention, paying attention to the body and paying attention to the emotional self, what feels right or what feels off within the body, really tuning in with that aspect of self. Then the next exercise is honoring it, right? And this might be very difficult. It's sometimes hard to make decisions based on what doesn't seem right at first, because we do get used to operating in certain ways. That's just our organic body biology aspect of ourselves, and our psyche, our subconscious self does get used to operating in certain ways. So it does take a lot of mindfulness. It does take a lot of self-awareness. But I also do have to preface to not be overly paranoid with this work. It is gentle. This is without being hard on ourselves. It's without being critical on ourselves and destructive or projecting inwardly with frustration and anger about what we're going through, because it does take some time to unravel from the beliefs and the programmings and the ways that we have been used to operating, to align more and more with who we are and align more with our inherent gifts and talents and strengths of our intuitive self, for one, which is one of them, which is also in alignment with our true self, who we truly are. And as I mentioned, when we become more and more and more in alignment with our intuition, when we are honoring what feels right, even though in our mind we may be second guessing, we may be questioning. And I also have to mention that when your intuition is guiding you to certain places, some decisions may not be 100%, or may not, I should say, feel like a total win at first. Some decisions still might create a challenge, because we also need the contrast of our lives to learn through certain things. Our intuition may be guiding us towards something that does need to, or where we might need to learn through, or that does need maybe attention for a specific challenge that we can work on. So don't get discouraged if you are listening to your intuition and it leads you down a path where it didn't work the way you were expecting. That's not a bad thing, right? So we can't also just expect our intuition to be 100% right all the time, or it's leading us into gold after gold after gold, which I feel it can, but it also can, in the same, lead us into some challenges too, or some areas that we need to work on for our self-development and for maybe changes in our outer world. So if we run into a certain problem that we were guided towards, that we felt was right, it could be showing something within ourselves that we need to fine tune within ourselves, or that we need to strengthen within ourselves. So don't get discouraged if you are feeling that you are listening to your intuition and it's guiding you somewhere that may not have worked the way you were expecting. That is okay. And I feel it's really important to let go of the expectations and be in the present moment. And meditation with this is crucially important. I drop into about 10-minute meditation every day now, sometimes a little bit longer if I feel like I can. But it's been part of my life for years, probably about good 15 to 18 years now, I think. So I feel meditation is going to be a crucial part of this, tuning in with the present moment, with silence, with your body, and just feeling and listening. And listening is not in the auditory way that we're used to. It's listening and with our senses. It's feeling within ourselves. It's paying attention to the subtleties within our heart, within our senses, especially, and just being at peace and seeing what comes up and what kind of sensations and what kind of feelings are transpiring within your body. Everything is connected. So the mind, the emotions, the body, the spirit, the energetic self, it's all connected. And the deeper you go with this, and the deeper I mean, the more tuned in that you become, the more aware you become. And those decisions that you'll make are going to be very sound. They're going to be very clear, and they're going to be very aligned with your heart, with your inner truth, and with your path in life. So the intuition is your guidance system. It is your compass. It isn't necessarily a physical aspect within our body. It is more of a sensory or psyche aspect within ourselves. We all have the ability to be oracles, sages, healers, our own within ourselves. Our system is ripe with opportunity to tap into, and our intuition is our guidance system. And also too, I should mention, I feel within our world right now, more than ever, our intuition is really called for us to explore and for us to strengthen. I feel that There's so much happening in the world right now. There's so much news and media and even AI. I made a comment on my Instagram recently about how AI is becoming so good that when weird stuff starts to happen, which it kind of already is, and it's going to keep getting, I think, weirder, nobody's going to believe it, or they might not know what to believe. And even just with media in general, it's so filled with a lot of dishonesty. So our intuition right now is called for. We need our intuition to guide us through what is happening next. The answers to our life, the answers to the world is not going to come from the news. It's going to come from us working on our inner self and tuning in and making decisions based on how we feel, not from fear and not from what we're told, based on how we feel, based on how you feel. It is most important not to listen to others. You can for reference maybe or something like that. But of course, our intuition, our own feelings and guidance system is the way. And it is going to help us distill through all this muck that has been created in the social media landscape, in the media landscape, and be able to differentiate or be able to rise above, I should say, a lot of information that can really disrupt our ability to connect and to create the positive change in this world. And so remember, your intuition is connected with your heart. It is a pure source within yourself. And the more in silence you can be, the better. Create space for yourself daily, 5-10 minutes a day. That's it. Almost incorporate it like brushing your teeth, something that it's very simple, it's very easy. And all it needs is just a little bit of tuning in. Create a space that is completely silent, that is quiet, where you can turn off the mind, you can let everything go, and you can tune in within yourself. You can listen within your body, within your senses, and start to connect with your deeper self. And just feel. That's all you need to do, is just feel what feels right, And your intuition is going to come from a very pure place. When you are feeling in fear, when you are feeling worried, when there is struggle, when there is resistance, when there is ego, when there is pride, when there is resentfulness, when there is criticalness, any types of experiences, whether it's mental or emotional or energetic within yourself, that is not coming from your intuition. So your intuition has the ability to distill from all of those aspects within self. And all those aspects come from fear, come from the shadow, come from the unconscious self that have not been resolved yet. And so the intuition comes from a very pure place. It is your internal guidance system. And it is all about an internal experience, tuning in with your senses on a deep level, tuning in with your body, and differentiating maybe the fear versus what feels right based on the purity of your heart, and knowing that your heart knows the answers, your inner self knows the answers, your inner truth knows the answers. And then the next step is to honor that and to believe yourself, to believe your truth, and to make decisions accordingly. And it may be uncomfortable for a while. It may feel almost as you might question yourself, you might doubt, but trust your heart. Trust your intuition, trust what feels right. And if there's a heaviness in the body when you want to make a decision, or maybe if you're in a certain career or if you're in a certain place in your life, there's something else that needs to be looked at under the surface, or maybe the career or maybe a relationship isn't actually fully the right fit for you. I feel truthfully in my heart that when we are on our path, when we are honoring ourselves, when we are listening to ourselves, when we are in alignment, we get flow. We create meaningful relationships. We create harmonious partnerships. We create rich lives. We have more peace and we have more alignment. And everything is an expression of our inner alignment within ourselves, listening to our intuition. Then we do attract those types of relationships that we might really want on a deep level, but maybe we felt like we didn't deserve, or maybe we felt like they didn't exist. And also we do need to go through the challenges. We do need to go through the challenges in order to go, oh, maybe I should have been listening to my intuition. Maybe I should have been tuning in. Oh, my body was like really heavy at that time, but I wasn't listening. So maybe the next time I'll pay attention and trust myself more, or make some changes within the deeper self to align with, again, more meaningful relationships, or a more harmonious career, or a more peaceful life, etc. So now is the time that we get to work on this, and it is very beautiful. And if you have any questions at all, please leave them below. I would love to answer them. I'm wishing you all the best on your journey and beyond, and take care.